Welcome to the National Indian Gaming Association's New Normal weekly webcast series. My name is Ashley Cope and I'm the marketing manager for the Indian Gaming Trade Show and Convention. I would like to share a few housekeeping tips before we get started. Everyone is muted by default except for our speakers. If you have any questions during the presentation, please type them into the question or chat box and they will be brought up at the end. This session is also going to be recorded and will be available to view on our website. Now, without further ado, I'd like to introduce Victor Rocha, Conference Chairman of the National Indian Gaming Association.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Victor Rocha. My co-host is Jason Giles, and welcome to the New Normal. In today's conversation, we're speaking with our friends Tal Moore, the Development Director of the National Native American Human Resource Association. Oh, wow. Looks like and I seem to be having internet trouble today, too, so I apologize in advance. If I freeze, Jason will be joining in.
We can still hear you, Victor. Go ahead with introductions. Okay.
Kenny, okay, I apologize. Yeah, I seem to be having internet troubles. I apologize. My main computer went down and I grabbed the second one. And I think, as we all know, these Zoom calls can be very challenging sometimes. So we're going to be going forward anyhow. I'm going to pretend that it didn't happen. If it does have a problem, Jason will jump in when it's appropriate. So our other guest is Judy Wright, the Vice President of Human Resources over at the Valley View Casino in Southern California, and Brendan Bussmann, Director of Government Affairs for Global Market Advisors. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Well, he's looks like he froze up, folks. But Judy, I want to start with you since you're on the ground working at a tribal casino and then we'll do the 5,000-foot view. But Judy, you're on the ground facing this shortage right now, I presume. And can you just tell our audience what you're seeing working at an indie casino right now and the hiring problems?
Okay. First, I wanted to say I have a really good perspective because not only am I Vice President of Valley View Casino, Vice President of Human Resources of Valley View Casino, I'm also the President of Nahara. So I kind of see a global or US-wide view of it also. But speaking on behalf of Valley View Casino, we have, at the very beginning of our shutdown back in 2020, we were having a difficult time with culinary staff and finding the culinary applicants. Moving forward, we did not lay off any of our people. We did furlough them, brought everybody back that wanted to come back. But now, as we were mentioning prior to the webinar, the business itself has really taken off. And what we're finding is the difficulty in finding people who want to come back to work. As I said, we brought all of our team members back. However, the business dictates the need for more people. We currently have 70 positions open, which is a lot more than we typically have. And today we're having a job fair. We're hoping that people show up because what we're hearing from other casinos nearby that nobody is showing up.
Wow.
So I feel like it is from a number of things. There are individuals who, even though with the vaccination goal in San Diego, close to reaching the goal of 75% vaccination, people are still feeling a little bit unsafe. Or they have felt that, you know what, I don't want to work with the public anymore. I think I want to do something behind the scenes now. So they're looking at job changes, and there are just individuals who I am going to share that we have a lot of people who come in and say, I'm only filing for this application because I want to, I have to do it for my unemployment benefits. So it's, they're very vocal. They're very honest. They're very transparent. But we still need people, and it's about getting the people in and also keeping the people we have. How can we keep the people that we have? How can we make them feel valued to the extent that they do not want to go and look for another career or, go to another place. So that's what I'm seeing.
Judy, let me ask you just briefly, is there a certain category or classification of workers that you're in desperate need of? Cooks or back end?
Culinary has always been a hot position, I'm going to call it, to recruit, because we compete with all of the not only the casinos, but all of the gas lamp area in San Diego, and San Diego had a higher minimum wage than the state did, and that comes all the way up to maybe about 20 miles from us. So it has to do with wage, it has to do with the benefits, and it has to do with the customer base that you are working with.
Excellent. Victor, are you back on? You look good there, Victor. You're on mute, Victor.
Sorry about that. Here I am, I'm back.
Judy did a great job of laying out the problem confronting her, which I think is endemic across all employers. I mean, I hear people on CNBC all day long. And the same thing, same stories, Judy. People are, if they show up at all, they show up just to check a box at the unemployment office.
Right.
Go ahead.
And one thing I wanted to add is we make on-the-spot offers, and I don't think people are expecting that. So when we make the on-the-spot offer, they're like, "Oh, I'm not." That's what it all comes out. Well, I really only applied just to, extend my benefits. So.
Right.
One of the interesting things that I'm seeing across the country is that you're seeing tribes, but they're forced to raise the minimum wage board. You know what I mean? For all their positions and stuff like that. So I think I just saw it with Osage or something like that this weekend, where it's having that type of effect. Brendan, what kind of effect is this having across the country? Obviously, this isn't just affecting tribal gaming. How big is this issue?
Well, I think it's a big issue, and it's obviously we're here to talk about how it relates to gaming and hospitality directly, and not just tribal entities but commercial entities. But you're seeing it, as we were talking beforehand. My last Uber I had, the guy said he's making a killing, but the Uber market that was a year and a half ago versus it is today, they just don't have drivers. They don't have people out there pounding the pavement off of this. I sat here. Vegas is sitting here reopening and doing all the things, and our mask mandate got by June 1st will be completely gone at this point. But I had a client in a couple weeks ago, and we had a heck of a time trying to find a restaurant that didn't service before 10 p.m. on a Monday or Tuesday night. And it's because it's either they still had some capacity constraints at that point. Obviously that changes on June 1st. But it goes to, I can't get enough people to work these shifts along the way to make it work. So, normally, when you're sitting here in Vegas and we're going to have Resorts World open up here in about a month, that's the big push and everybody's shifting around and everything. Every one of these hotels and every one of our clients across the country that I talk to is literally, as Judy talked about, holding job fairs because they need people in the door. And I think the other challenge is, and you're starting to see this from a political standpoint, is you're starting to see states give incentives as they cut off the unemployment to go back to work. And one I just noticed earlier this week, I think it was Monday or Tuesday, I was reading, where in Oklahoma, Governor Stitt's given a $1,200 bonus if you go back to work over everything versus hey, stay at home and you're still collecting your $300 from the state and other things along the way. But they're having to sort of incentivize it, not just by position, but collectively to say, hey guys, it's time to start going back. But you face the challenges that Judy talked about people, that after they've been through what they've been through, are sort of having a change of focus in what they want to do with their professional lives.
I apologize. I'm being attacked by a dog over here. I forgot to close my door. I forgot to close my door. Go away.
Nothing wrong with an office mate, Victor.
Best guest ever.
Yeah. So Tal, as Brendan says, this is becoming harder and harder to run our business. And I think on the road to recovery, I think, all of us have opened partial. We're still waiting to open entertainment in some parts. We're still waiting to open like Judy and I in Southern California, our restaurants are still at partial capacity, buffets aren't open. But it just seems like, what does this mean to the road to recovery for us? You know what I mean? It just seems like, as everyone's just ready, like Judy says, we're making so much money, or everyone in the business is making so much money. Yesterday, the numbers came out for Connecticut, and the Connecticut tribes are just had another record month. But I'm sure they're having the same issues. What are you having? What are you experiencing with what are you hearing from a national level?
Yeah, thank you, Victor, and thanks, Jason, for asking me to join. And like Judy, a couple of hats represented today. One is through NAHARA, the National Native HR Association, and working with Judy and the board. The other is Chief Organizational Development Officer here at the Kalispel Tribe of Indians, Pacific Northwest, just out of Spokane, Washington. Washington State has one of the highest in the top 5 minimum wage, and we're having to even increase over that. So what we're seeing at a national level, and Victor, you just ended with your statement right on target, record-breaking days. People are so ready to be out and about, and they already have been. We just lifted our mask mandate here at Kalispel yesterday. I think that's going to see another influx. Some people will say, no, not yet, I'm going to stay home, but that's not going to be most of the population that we've seen and served. The other national element, and Victor, you had a new normal podcast conversation about 2 months ago that I was on for mental health. So you compare what's happening in the marketplace, Indian country, commercial, as Brandon said, across the US, you put that also to our essential workers that have been working overtime and day after day, they're past fatigue points. So we're seeing employees are calling out more often. We're seeing employees that aren't servicing at the top of their level at this point that they typically would before. They're tired. And so Kalispel, in our wisdom, passed, and Victor, you push back appropriately, that is this sustainable? Just passed 3 standard operating procedures that's going to implement this week. One's a sign-on bonus, one's a referral incentive for current employees, existing employees to bring people to the table, literally, and the other's a retention bonus. And they vary in amounts, so retention bonus and sign-on bonus to type of position. As Judy well pointed out, number of positions, we have 84 positions open currently. That's very high. Majority are front-facing employees, heart of house employees. We do have a number that are professional level. We're finding a number of professionals are saying, I want to work remote. I don't want to come to work. And so they just tap out. We're like, nope, we're on the scenes. We want you here. So that's a whole category of folks still out there. What are they doing? Demanding more compensation, but not being present. That's a challenge we're having right now. When do you have people come back if they're not front facing? Judy, I'm going to pitch it back to her, Victor and Jason, when you're ready, because Judy just shared with me this morning on a different call a sign that she saw at a commercial establishment that went right to the core of my heart. And I'm thinking, how do we incorporate that in our facilities and across even NAHARA to say, here's an idea. But I'll let Judy have that star show whenever Victor and Jason, you're ready for Judy to come back on scene.
I mean, now you set her up. I'm anxious to hear. How about you, Victor?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Does the sign say the end is nigh, run for the hills, or?
No.
Oh, okay.
Actually, it was a sign that really stood out to me, because I see it in our venues here, where we have a number of people who are ready to go out and go out in the public. They've been vaccinated. They're visiting your establishments, but also I want to say that their entitlement is there too. So they want excellent service, and they want everything that was pre-pandemic. When we were able to recruit the number of people, and I see it at our establishment. But I went to one of our favorite. My husband and I took off a day, and we went to one of our favorite establishments that we go to before we go to Costco, so we don't buy Costco out. Okay, so we went to a restaurant, and in the restaurant they had a sign that was posted, and it said, "Please be kind to our staff. They chose to come to work to you today to serve you." And when we went in there, we had one waitress for 10 tables, and she did excellent. But we needed to be patient. But the sign itself was, wow, this person did choose to come to work to serve us. Well, I left her a huge tip, because she was working her butt off, and it was the owner and one waitress, and then the kitchen staff. So, if they're feeling it like that, I know our team is, and we kind of spoke about compassionate fatigue of being so exhausted of helping people. It just made a statement with me, and I did share that with Tal and my team this morning. So.
Well, I think that's very profound in a lot of ways, and I think as we go out and we see that, we're trying to get back to a new normal, but I think we're in an area that we've never been before. We've never seen anything like this, and I think we all expected the road to recovery to be nice and smooth, and there seems to be obstacles. As I was saying when I was starting this conference, I was quoting Donald Rumsfeld. It was like there are known knowns and known unknowns and unknowns unknowns, and I think we're kind of in that area right now. This is just so unique for us, and what it means for the tribes is like, it's not going to be a smooth recovery. It's not going to get back to normal, and Brendan, I could throw a question over to you. What the government can do about this? Do we just have to wait it out? Do we have to wait till they run out of money? Are we gonna have to wait till September when the benefits end? I mean, how is this gonna play out? How do you think it's gonna play out?
Well, and that's a very good question, Victor. And I go back to when this whole thing started. You talk about how you started talking about Rumsfeld. I said there's only two words that matter, which is uncertain and unprecedented. And even though we're on
Right.
what we hope is the backside of this, it's still unprecedented and it's still uncertain over where things are going. I don't know a casino out there right now that isn't seeing record, reservations, record gaming revenue. I mean, when the Nevada numbers came out for March, I remember I was on a call at the time and I started wanting to say, hey guys, can you take a 5-minute pause? Because I don't believe what I'm seeing here.
I just had a stroke.
It was just completely bizarre. But to your point on what can the government do and those types of things, it's a very good question, because you talk to some people in Washington and they're talking about, in some cases, another round of stimulus. You've got things that are happening with the child tax credit and some of these other things, and then you have other states at a state level going, hey guys, time out. At some point, we don't want the extra money coming in. We need to get people back to work. Going back to Oklahoma, the $1,200 that Stitt's doing to try to say, hey, we'll give you $1,200 to go back and get a job over everything. Those are probably the better incentives for the longer term. But, in the middle of this, and this is something you and I talked about last week a little bit more, which is you also have all these intangibles happening on the other side. With, you look at the southeast portion of the country that still has some gas stations without gas, and exorbitant prices off of that. You've got inflation coming into place. You've got, Judy, as she so eloquently talked about the waitress at that restaurant, you got people still going out of their way saying, I'm choosing to do these things. And in some cases, they haven't been the easiest they have been over the last year. So you have all these other things, but I think it's literally going to be, what's the next milestone and how can we do it? But there's definitely, a reaction either way that we're seeing, whether it's more stimulus directed in a way that says get back to work, as well as all these other intangibles that are coming into play, that, there's not a perfect path forward on how to do this. There's not a perfect path forward because, one, we've never been here. And two, the economy right now is so volatile in what you're seeing along the way with inflation and some of those things, that the slightest little thing could turn things one way or another. And the question I keep getting asked by reporters and all of this, and I think, everybody on this call today would agree, we're seeing all this unprecedented. At what point does that start to level off? Is this the new normal, that this is where we're going to see? Or are you going to see things eventually taper back because, entertainment's back out there and they're not gaming as much, but people that were going to come back for the buffet and the buffet doesn't return, what does that look like? So I still think we're just in a new chapter of where we're at, but it's still very unprecedented.
Right.
And Tal, let me jump in here, Victor.
Sure.
So Tal, I'll just throw my 2 cents out there. I don't know that we can underestimate the effect of the Trump policies on immigration either. I mean, we turn the workers off coming from other countries, and Biden has been reluctant to let that increase for obvious political reasons, and that's one pressure. The second one is what Brendan was saying. You know, in DC here, that gas shortage thing was just, it's still going on, like you said, and it's totally unnecessary, but it came out of the blue and spooked a lot of folks. And you know, when you come in out of a pandemic, I guess fear is the operative word, and it is hard for folks to gear up again, to travel, to commute into work, to drive home. And also, by the way, a lot of the schools are still not, you know, they're either a hybrid or not fully open. So I know our kids are still at home on computer. But anyway, I mean, from your perspective, Tal, what do you think that on a much more micro level where you're at, how can you impact that other than breaking the bank?
Yeah.
And I don't even know that would work, because to your point, Brendan, about the $1,200, that same article pointed out, look, if you just ride out the unemployment benefits for 4 weeks, you got your $1,200 right there. So,
No, I know. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, it's you can go either way off of it.
Right,
Absolutely.
right. But go ahead, Tal.
Yeah, Jason, lots of thoughts in mind. So hopefully I can stay focused in just a moment. First, it's a supply chain challenge. A Republican House member here in Washington State is also a farmer. And the reason I say that is because that party typically is anti-immigration, but he took pictures out in his asparagus field. And there were thousands upon thousands upon thousands of asparagus that were cut down and mowed down and ruined because he doesn't have the workers that normally would have the visa or undocumented to come and do the work. We're going to see that impact locally, regionally, and nationally, not just in the gas chain supply, but in the food supply chain. I've seen on the personal level, and this is where our employees, our team members are impacted in their pocketbook, prices at the grocery store have risen exponentially. I don't believe the 4% average. When a T-bone steak, which, you know, that's great if we can afford it, is now $22 at the local grocery store, where when the supply chain was greater, you didn't have that. We're feeling it at the pocketbook then on the operational level. So most restaurants that I've been able to go to, I was in Seattle last weekend over the Cascades, almost every restaurant had minimum and minimal supply menus, limited menus. And they say due to supply, due to cost, due to prices. So what would have normally been 3-4 pages of some wonderful Italian food items is now 1 page. And it's also service level to meet the demand. So it's all the cyclical thing coming together to where you don't have the kitchen staff to make these complexities and to do the things that they used to do. So when we're looking back to that, the immigration status, where our workers, it's really difficult, not impossible, but I like how Brandon said, you know, the pendulum, and where are we? Are we going to level off? I think we have a long period of time yet before we see the leveling off. We're seeing, Judy brought this up in her conversation point, and I just want to add to that, it's the term ghosting. It used to not be applied to employment, it was to dating, right? But they're ghosting us. And that's all the way up leading to an orientation. So as Judy said, trying to be better, here's some solutions. When HR and the tribal gaming organizations can partner in their permitting process to do an offer and get a permit, and they can start work the next day, when it used to take 2 weeks on average, that's a win. But then you do all that work, and will they pass your background? That's a challenge, because a lot of people that are applying for positions don't qualify for the stimulus. They don't qualify for unemployment. Why? Because they may not qualify for your permitting. And I'm talking specific to gaming. So can you partner with the gaming organizations to say, can we maybe temporarily or permanently take a look, not violate the internal controls, obviously, but the permit process may need to be less stringent. Jason, I know, that my answer may have veered to the right a little bit, but your question's on target. I think Brandon and Judy would be able to round out my edges.
I think you have a good point, and I think working with your gaming department on how we can transition the person into the employment status quicker is a good point. I thought it was only gaming that was having the difficult part, but I saw a news article the other day, and if you're familiar with San Diego, Old Town, where they would hire somebody, say you're hired, come in the next morning, and nobody would show. So it's not even the length of time that I thought really was our issue. It's just, do people really want to work? I remember we used to do in my old job, going back many, many years, is that the unemployment offices used to call to see if people, verify if did you apply, did they have an offer, did they, and we could tell them, yeah, no, this person never applied. Yes, we made them an offer, they refused it, and it would affect their unemployment. They don't have the staff to do that either. I mean, so we're really relying on, sorry, I have this little fly in front of me. We're really relying on the honor system for many of our applicants out there. I saw a article, and you may have seen it recently, with President Biden saying, if you refuse a job offer, it's going to affect your unemployment benefits. But then in the same breath, he said, but I don't see any of these instances happening. So it's just that the job market, there isn't enough job openings out there, but everywhere I look, there's job openings. Just a statement.
Great.
Brendan, how long before we see like a Barbary Coast type of situation where people are being shanghaied, you know what I mean? And like thrown in the back in the kitchen and stuff like that. It seems like that seems to be the only answer for right now,
Well, and I think that you probably have something that'll happen off of that at some point. But the problem is we're such a regulated industry, it's hard for us to do that over everything. I go back to, the example that was right off the rep in Washington that was literally cutting down his asparagus. It's a lot easier to grab a bunch of people in a truck and say, hey, go take care of the asparagus than, hey, I need you back in the kitchen, or especially on the gaming side, I need you to go into the count room, or I need you, because you do or don't. I mean, have the skill set to do that. So our industry is very difficult off of that. But even to that point, where I don't know where you start with that. I go back to the Uber and Lyft thing that I started off talking about earlier, which is, that's a prime example where you can, the age-old joke used to be in New York, hey, you arrived in the country and we put you behind the wheel and you put you in charge of a taxi. Well, we can't even do that right now because there's not enough people out there that want to do it. And it just becomes a challenge across the way. Tal said it best, which it's a supply chain issue, but it's not just the physical supply chain that we have problems with because of the trucking and the supply of goods and that sort of stuff. It's the people supply. So there's a supply chain issue at every aspect of this process. And then you have the overlay of all the other things between inflation, cost of goods going up because of the supply chain, government subsidies or stimulus or whatever along the way to help, sustain some of this. It's just the cogs are just getting, all riled up, and how this all plays out, it's going to be very interesting.
Judy, Brendan, you made a lot of really good points. And Judy, you where you work at, you have an interesting property, and you're not too far from where my tribe is, but you're surrounded with other big properties that are competing for the same worker. So how do you see this playing out for your tribe and your property? How do you compete in such a competitive market?
You're absolutely right. We all have the same candidate pool, and one of the things that we are focusing on is retention. What can we do to retain our team members? We do engagement surveys. We ask them what is it that they want, and we actually, we're doing so well right now. How can we share some of the bounty with our team members? And just recently, we made some benefit changes for our shift differentials, holiday pays. So our team members really accepted that well, because they felt, okay, our casino, our tribe is doing really well. Now they're sharing the wealth with us. one of the things that we do also is for any of our workers that are working with a visa or are not American citizens, we offer a citizenship program that we actually pay for, and they can get their citizenship. And that has been something that has been very well accepted in our team members. So really, it's that how do we retain the team members we have so that they're not going next door for $1,000 referral bonus or that. So we have some really loyal team members. We have a number of them that have been here 20 years since, but we don't also have the entertainment venues or we're a boutique hotel. So I think we've been able to manage it well.
Well, Tal, let me, this is a question for everyone. I'll start with you, Tal. National Indian Gaming Association and other Native organizations, we're there to, tell Congress, hey, this is impacting Indian gaming in this manner. And what can we go back? I mean, do we need to tell them to have the benefits expire earlier, or they're going to do this big infrastructure bill, and it's going to be some more stimulus coming folks' way. And also, Judy and Tal, the $20 billion from this most recent coronavirus relief fund still has not been distributed to tribes. They just came out with the formula for that at Treasury. So that will be coming out in the next few weeks. There is a chance your tribal government could make this worse if, they're getting all this money. It has to be spent by a certain time. And a lot of tribes have already set up, direct payments for food, clothing, and all these things. Yet another thing where somebody, is going to get a lot of things taken care of, and probably, I don't know a lot of tribes that are putting a lot of restrictions on it. It's just open to all tribal members. And what can we tell folks at Congress, Capitol Hill? What can we tell them about this? Maybe is it something as simple as, hey, just start letting more visa workers in, or something along those lines? What do you think, Tal? Because I'm really worried that what Brendan mentioned earlier, that at some point, I think the old economics, no one's ever disproved it. At some point, inflation will start to rear its ugly head here if people have too much money in their pocket. It's in a lot of places it already has hit, like you pointed out. But go ahead, Tal.
Jason, again, very thoughtful in question, and my approach to those that make policy at our state levels, tribal levels, even federal level, it needs to be data driven, not just information. I think the anecdotes that we've been talking about, even I know that that's my truth from the perspective here in the Pacific Northwest and working with tribes and HR across Indian country. What is that hard data they're getting? Because if President Biden is saying, I don't know what the problem is, I don't see this. And so I appreciate Brandon's comment to the supply chain. Absolutely. It's not just product, it's people. And with the stimulus dollars, are we going to get to the perfect bottleneck, that storm, to where there is no employment status? We have also, as a country as a whole, tribes as well, I think, I may get in trouble for saying this, we may not have done a good job either as far as preparing people at these service line levels. It's educate, which is absolutely true. Doctors, nurses, shortage there, no doubt about it. But what have we done to prepare our tribal members and community members for the technical jobs, or the hands-on jobs, right? I hate the term blue collar, but that's what it is.
The trades.
The trades. Victor mentioned, earlier, before I think we're on the formal call, going into his mechanic, and the mechanic saying it's me and one tech, where it used to be three. How is all this money then going to be funneled? And as you said, Jason, there's timelines and limitations. Will there be allowed extensions? The Kalispell part of some of the dollars and grants is broadband. Who's to install it? Where do you find people to pull wire even? So can we hire somebody and do a complex and complete job to train somebody into the trade? I love what Judy shared as far as a path to citizenship with employees. And I think I'll end my note overall to say the costs are going to see increasing too on other sides. Our benefit costs are going to be increasing. That's talking to all of our partners with NAHARA, and I know NIGA, you have partners out there in the insurance community, the broker community, we've had a year of suppression in use of benefits. Healthcare has been delayed by many people. And so we're going to see a run on that. And so now we have wages increasing. We have the trajectory going up with it where our costs of goods are increasing. We have the health benefit costs predictably increasing, even if we're self-funded. Wow. And then we have a complacent workforce. We're encouraging people to, stay home. And why? Well, there's a number of conditions. Brandon, I think, mentioned it earlier as far as schools. Schools still closed. I'm a parent. Do I choose to stay home with my 3 kids because there is no daycare? Or who do I have in charge of my family? It's cheaper for me and more attractive to stay home. So Jason, back to the policy aspect, I think it really is not looking individually, but Indian country as a whole. And I know NIGA does a really good job at that, to give those policy, the legislators, this information with solutions. Sometimes I think we fuel and feed info, but then what do we have drafted for them? And I know your team does that. We're starting to do that, to draft policy and say, here's the solution we're recommending. I don't know that we have that solution yet, but it needs that proactive and reactive response combined.
I think we would have more of a voice also. NIGA has a very powerful voice. I think NAHARA has a powerful voice, with human resources. And then you have NCAI and all of these other ones. If we could all get together and really support each other and share our concerns and have that unified voice, I really think that, we would, as tribal governments and tribal associations and tribal employers, have a impact on what's happening.
Well,
it seems to me that this is like a double-edged sword, because on one hand, all this record revenue is because of all this extra stimulus money.
Mhm.
If you go to the casino, you see them, and also there's the other element where people are just, they're exhausted of the pandemic. They want to get back to normal. We're seeing this rush to get back to the old normal, and people are completely forgetting about the new normal. But one of the things that interests me, and this question is open up to the entire group, how do you think technology is going to be pick up the slack? During the pandemic, we talked a lot about that, about how technology, you're going to not need a lot of people for electric table games and stuff like that. Do you think there'll be more of an acceleration towards this workless society? More like the Jetsons or like a Wall-E?
It's a little scary.
Sorry, I have a 5.
I was going to say really scary, but
that's my frame of reference now. Yeah.
Um,
But you know what I mean? Go
It's
ahead.
interesting on the service level. We have a little place in Palm Springs, and there's a restaurant, I'll call it out by brand, Tommy Bahama. And they have really resurfaced as far as the service approach. It's almost nearly all self-service. It has a full menu, it has a bar, but you find maybe one server in that entire outdoor terrace, and they direct you where to go. It's going to be interesting on how we redirect traffic flow and the amenities within our organizations, our tribes. And that's what you're looking at for innovation. We've been talking about this pre-COVID. The supply chain for the human side has been challenging a year and a half, 2 years ago. Now we're at that juncture where it's now even critical. So what are we doing in a different mode? The signs Judy mentioned, be kind to our servers. What's it mean at table games now that masks are off and people are smoking again, and they're saying, oh, hold up, I don't feel safe. And people leave the employment market now over that. I don't know, Victor, you raised more questions than I can provide answers. And
Right.
Judy and Brandon probably have better response than what I just gave.
Well, and Brendan, you see those robot bartenders and and stuff, and especially in Las Vegas. I mean, it's over the top right now. If you look on Twitter, if you look at and actually Jason and I are going to be going real soon here, but everyone's going there in Vegas, and yet you're seeing the unions talking about, hey, hire us back first. So it's really interesting dynamic playing out in Vegas, isn't it?
Well, it is, and you brought up actually a conversation I was having last night with a colleague of mine that has a company that does some of this automated beverage service, and they're seeing it as a huge opportunity for them because they can go in, they can get these systems put in place because one, they're low on workers, and two, if you look at some of the properties that have installed it here, they look at it as a cost control, because as opposed to a bartender sitting there and going, hey, you and Jason are, good friends. We're on our second round. Let me give you a little bit extra in this along the way. It's nope, here's your shot. Here it is. It's all automated. It's all okay. And it helps control the overall cost as opposed to the give and take. The challenge I have with the technology side over all of this is, and I'll see this in properties because as I've traveled around the country, you see more kiosk check-in, more, automated process over everything. I automatically still skip the kiosk because I'm going to the front counter because I'm trying to get my free upgrade. I'm
Right.
trying to work the system so that as opposed to my, room, whatever I paid for, hey, give me a view. Hey, give me something else that, because I want that interaction.
Mhm.
Some people though, because of where we're at with the technology side, are automatically going to go to the kiosk. They're going to do it because they see it as either one, the lowest common factor to get in there, or, on any of the major apps, they're using this.
Right.
I can check into Marriott when I go, back to Nebraska next week, and I don't even have to go to the front desk. So technology is upon us. It's just a matter of how will we adapt off of it. The opportunity I still see, and this is where we're behind from a legislative standpoint, and regulatory, is on the cashless side of being able to do that. And the interesting thing, and I continually hear in Vegas that Resorts World is trying to go as cashless as possible. When they open up here in about a month, I think it'll be interesting dynamic to see what that is, because as we all know, a lot of our business is cash driven. It's putting the money down on the table. It's putting it in the slot. It's not, what it is over everything, and flipping people over to that. I think now's the perfect time to do it because of what we've gone through, but you've also got to have the legislative and regulatory structure to back that up to be able to do it along the way. But I'd love to hear what Judy and Tal have to say. But before that, I do want to say, when you and Jason are here in Vegas, I hope to see you guys before on your next trip, and we'll take a tour of a few places.
And
Yeah.
and Judy, I'll let you go here, but to your point, Brendan and Victor, and even what you said earlier, we're trying to arrange a vendor meeting in Vegas, and Victor doesn't know this yet. A lot of our vendors are saying we're not ready to meet in person yet. And it's shocking me because for 6 months, all we've heard is, we don't see you guys enough and this and that. And then we try to arrange an in-person meeting and no one's ready to come to a big in-person meeting yet. So there's all these dichotomies that are still, that companies are still working through. So, but go ahead, Judy.
No, I have to actually agree with both Brendan and Tal. The technology, it has to be a technology that works. I remember it was a few years ago when we had ATMs and they would only cash out the dollars and the cents. You had to go to either play it again or go to the cage. And we tried that. They said, oh, this is going to be the new thing. I think we had it installed for maybe 2 months, and our players were already attacking us. So we went back to a full cash out of your ticket redemption ticket. So it has to be a reliable technology. I still think a lot of our guests, I still think a lot of our team members want that one-on-one interaction with individuals. And I think that's why some of these, our businesses are doing so well, is because people have been quarantined for so long that they want the interaction. They want the face-to-face. So I don't know if technology is the complete answer. I think it may be part of the answer, but I still think there's a lot of face-to-face conversations and interactions that people want to have. And I understand where, you're talking about your vendors, because we're trying to do our conference in Hawaii, and our health vendors are the last ones to lift any travel restrictions. So, we're trying to get, some health presentations set. So.
With Tal, are you seeing it up there at Kalispell? Are you guys exploring new technologies to take some of the burden off of human work there?
Yeah, Yeah, technology, and as Judy well said, not to misplace it, not just do it to try it, but how do you pilot without having the backfires? Back of house is more the focus, I think, for us and others that I associate with. You know, where those technologies can streamline, whether it's baking goods, what is it that is going to assist in that process? The front-facing employees, I agree with Judy, especially now. People that have been under their self-quarantine, or they're not doing the travel, they're not going to entertainment for a year plus now. They're hungry for it. I'm hungry for it. And I don't want to go stand in front of an automated system to get my gin and tonic, and I want 3 limes, and this is not going to let me do it. It's like timeout. I'm going to pick someplace else. So I'm old school here, way old school in hospitality, been in hospitality 40 years. Don't ever take that away from me. And I think there's many of us, and Brandon's right. I will skip those kiosks. I will go out of my way to go someplace where I have interface with an individual. And I think that's where those organizations, the hospitality market is going to stay above the realm. If we can, again, it's all back to the cycle of conversation here, cyclically. Can we hire the people, retain the folks, train the best folks? I don't care if somebody's not been a bartender in their entire life. If they've got a good attitude and they've got a smile, I will teach them how to throw a drink. Because
Wow.
I don't need 5 years experience like we said we used to have. Why? But that's not that technology driven. What can we do to support our staff in technology? Sometimes we put a lot of barriers and bureaucracy in front of them. Let's streamline that. Let them do their job front facing. That's my pitch.
You know, you have a very good point, Tal. You know, what are we doing to further the careers of some of our team members who have been loyal team members for a number of years, and you know, an opportunity for another career? We started a dealer school. We used to be the only break-in casino in our area, and then Pachunga would take them and Paula would take them and stuff. But now everybody's accepting break-in dealers. So we actually started a school within our casino and giving opportunity to others in the other areas to learn a new skill, and that's going over very well. So I think we just got to be creative.
Yeah, we have a school, Judy, as well. And I'll just add to that, to retain and keep our current employees fully entertained, is we're increasing our dual rate capacity. We're getting ready to kick off our summer concerts, full capacity, July. So instead of using staffing organizations that they themselves are short-staffed, let's have that opportunity for our internal staff, where before it was a hard no. No, you're in that department. You're not going to go dual rate because that's time and a half now. Guess what? We're willing to do the time and a half, and the employees are happy about it. They get to hear a concert, they get to throw a beer, and they have a good time. But then the next day they go back and set at their accounting job. Why not? I think we're finding ourselves in HR anyway, a lot more flexible to what the employees, to, as Judy's good point, retain those that are passionate about being here. The average employee here at Kalispell, we opened, this is our 20th year. I've done 7 sessions yesterday on new policy rollout. What a time to do policies. And the average in the room was 13 years. We did an average of all the managers and supervisors, 13 years. We want them to stay. And they're the ones that are helping retain the frontline and the back of house staff. Are we giving them the tools and resources to do that? That is technology, it's innovation, it's compensation. We did a front and back total reward statement to let employees know we're going to distribute it. Here is a capstone of every benefit you get, and maybe you don't are aware of all of them, you need to take more. The tribe did HMO in our health insurance this year, and the employees that choose it pay 0 premium. That's the market we're in today. Does it cost money? Yes. Is this tribe making money? Yes. So how do we keep the reinvestment going for the community? It's constant. Every day we have this conversation.
And Victor, I know we're coming up towards the end here, but I just want to point out for Brendan, since he's in Las Vegas, and you might know this, Brendan, but Vegas is one of the few cities that's already wired for driverless vehicles. In other words, all the stoplights are already computer, so all the driverless cars will be able to talk to each other when they're at stoplights and et cetera, et cetera. There's other cities like that, of course, but also Vegas is the only place I've been in where like Uber or Lyft sent me a driverless vehicle and you just hop in the back and it takes you off. And then what do I see last night? I'm watching a NBA playoff game. I see Domino's is now going to have driverless cars deliver your pizza in, you know, and they're going to start trying to roll that out. Now, if there's one company that, you know, they were so innovative 30, 40 years ago with their 30-minute delivery, and now they're going to have these driverless cars deliver your pizza. I would be real worried about your Uber drivers there and your taxi drivers, because, you know, the technology is coming, and, you know, I don't really, in Vegas, I think is going to be ground zero for that because of, you know, you guys really embrace that. And I think just as a test city, given your tourist destination, but I'm with you, Brendan. I do not enjoy checking in at a kiosk, and I notice more and more with conferences too. And I feel like NIGA might be in the Stone Age, because we actually have people there giving you your badge. They use the iPads now to check in, and then it prints off your badge, and you got to put it in the thing yourself and move on. But Brendan, it's not going to get easier, is it? And somebody had a question about what about just increasing pay? We touched on it at the beginning. That's not so easy. Victor, you pointed out, how long can you keep increasing pay until you're broke? You've got to see revenue on the other end. But go ahead, Brendan.
I was going to say, you know, off the technology side, then I'd love to address the salary side of this too. You know, we are in a great position from a Vegas standpoint, but, you know, I remember when I first came to this town in the early 2000s, and it was the monorail versus the taxi company. And why the monorail, which was, I mean, new technology, but it wasn't new technology. You could go over to Disneyland and see the same damn thing that's been there for years. But that's why the monorail never went to the airport, because it was like, you can't cut off the taxi drivers. And then, you know, you come back in here, and then Uber and Lyft got approved solely because we needed to fund a new med school, which caused that. But, you know, you now have the automation, and why, you know, when CES comes to town, you have those autonomous vehicles that are coming in that are able to work off the lights, at least in and around the strip, along everything. You know, it'll be very interesting when we host World of Concrete here in about 3 weeks, when the Vegas Loop, which comes to fruition, which is the new Elon Musk Boring Company project that connects the convention center, and literally has 3 top stops where you have Teslas in these tunnels underneath the convention center, driving people from place to place. And that eventually is supposed to connect. You know, there's an article yesterday that the station that goes over to Resorts World, and I don't know where the station sits with Wynn, but those aren't going to be done in time for when Resorts World is going to open up. But there's eventually a loop that goes from downtown to the airport with all that same technology. So it's definitely moving, but, you know, in some cases, you're still going to want a live person in there going, hey, you know, I mean, every time I get in a city, and I either, if it's an Uber, a Lyft, or even a taxi driver, I like to chat them up because I want to know what's going on. Now, granted, that's because I'm in the industry. Or it's, you know, even some people like, hey, what's the best steakhouse in town that you know? Because those are the people that know that, because they have tons of people coming in and out over everything. You know,
hey Siri, what's the best steakhouse in Vegas? As my automated car takes me there. You know what I mean? So,
but if you listen to the Review Journal, it's Outback, which is not the case.
Are those automated cars going to take you by the freeway to get to the MGM, like the cabs still?
So the way that the tunnel system's supposed to work, and obviously they still are implementing it, but literally, if it's you're at the convention center, you hop on an app and say, hey, I need to be dropped off at MGM, and through whatever path they do, they drop you off at MGM. And it's not you're above on the surface off everything. This is you're in a tunnel and you're going, you know, up to 60 miles an hour in these tunnels. And it's all autonomous because they can get away with it because there's no other traffic. You don't have, you know, any of the 5 of us up there trying to stop up traffic, or some pedestrian that thinks they're going to run across the street real quick because they think they can get away with it.
You know, Jason, I think Indian country might be uniquely qualified to settle this issue, because it seems like the whole country went on per cap and we're just trying to get them back to work. You know, so I think what we need to do, obviously, you turn the TV off. You turn the TV off. You get rid of the PlayStation. You get grandma to come over. You know what I mean? So we know how to do it. You know, So I apologize for anyone out there who, you know what I mean, but I had to go there. But it's kind of the same thing, you know what I mean? It's just, you know, people motivated to get back to work. Like I said, it's a double-edged sword. You know, we're generating all this revenue because of it, but you know, it's creating other issues like people not want to go back to work and stuff like that. And I think, you know, one of the things that to recap our conversation, I think, you know, we still have a long way to go. Technology is not going to answer the question. So it really is creating a welcoming workplace in an environment where people still don't feel safe. You know, they don't know if they're going to get sick. You're still getting a lot of mixed messages. So, you know, I think we still have a ways to go on this thing. And, you know, the purpose of having this conversation was just to let everyone know is that, you know, we're all aware and here's how we're all trying to deal with it, you know. So I think we had another question in here about something that was something else. You know, before I wrap up, is there anything else you guys would like to tell our audiences? Start with you, Brendan.
The thing I'd like to leave everybody with is the two words that I continually said when this all started, which is unprecedented, uncertain. And while things are looking positive, and hopefully they'll continue to look that direction, it's going to be still a little bumpy on the way out of this. We're experiencing challenges we never thought we'd have to deal with. I mean, these are in some cases positive challenges, but you know, we've got supply chain issues across the gamut. Off of how we're going to need to stress this, and it's not just the good side of it, it's the people side. And I'll leave you with this last thought of I look forward to having all of you here in July for NIGA. So it'll be good to see everybody face to face. And
Yes.
Jason, to your point, I'm not afraid to talk to anybody. Come on out. We're ready.
All
so
right. Well, Victor and I, it just might be us three at lunch then.
that works.
Okay.
So Judy, a question goes to you.
You know, one of my concerns is, and I think we had a question about it, is about the pay. And you know, one of the things that I have seen is that some of our properties are paying way above the norm for a certain job, and you know, that adds compressions to the other positions. So we're really going to have to look at our pay, you know, a lot of surveys. I know that we all participate in surveys and to make sure that we don't, I'm going to say warp the pay grades and the pay norm for our businesses, because that would be very difficult to sustain. You know, we still got to keep on track. And one of the things that, you know, I think we should do is continue using surveys and using all the tools that we can to make sure that we are all in sync with what we're paying our team members.
And Tal, and the final question goes, comment goes to you, my friend.
Thank you, Victor. And to say something a little different from what Brandon's theme and Judy's theme, all good themes are, is I'll leave us with, are we being kinder and gentler with the employees that we do have?
Mm-hmm.
Let's pay attention to their mental health needs and their personal needs. And it's not to get into their personal business, but more so than today, we need to know how they're feeling, how they're doing, and are we doing enough? Never enough. But that's the HR perspective, the heart perspective. And I challenge all of us to do more and do better. Like Brandon, I look forward to seeing everyone at NIGA in July. It'll be the first big conference that I'll be attending, and I think people are ready for it. Hope to see good registrations number, Jason and Victor.
Yes.
And in turn, Nahara in September. Judy mentioned the conference there, and people are ready to be together. You can't take out that human element of association with folks in our network. So thanks for putting this call together, gentlemen. And Judy, always a pleasure to work for you and with you. So thank you.
Where will Nahara be in September? What city?
Honolulu, Hawaii.
Waikiki.
Oh, you're going to Waikiki. Okay.
Oh,
great.
wow. I'll be there.
Come on over.
Well, we're gonna at National Indian Gaming Association. You know, our trade show is with the Res Conference, July 19th. I'm working with the new executive director of NCAI right now. We're trying to put together an native organizational meeting. So you'll definitely be invited to that. We don't know the time or place yet. We're going to try to get it going, but just to hear all these problems. And I will say, Tal, to your point about Biden and him being, I don't know if he was misinformed as much as they were trying to cover up a poor jobs report from April. And the native team in the White House right now is very responsive. The Native American White House team, Pawi Rivera, and some other folks are in there. They're very responsive. So you can rest assured we will start to let them know these things, and they're very collaborative there. It's a much different framework. The Trump guys, the White House Indian team was over in the interior. They booted them out of the White House. So, but these guys are back in the old executive building, and they do have access to the president and vice president. So we'll take these messages to them that yes, there is a problem with the employment right now. So don't, again, I think they were just covering up for that very poor April jobs reading of only 222,000 jobs generated. So, but that'll be about it there. So sorry, Victor. I think that's all we've got for today. We've helped.
So we got.
Yep.
All right. Well, listen, we'd like to thank our guests, Judy Wright, Tal Moore, Brendan Bussmann, and looks like Ricky's up in here too. Welcome, Ricky. And everyone, we'll be back next week with another great show. Want to thank everyone for sticking around. And I saw that we had one question to Star Fernandez, and just to let her know, yeah, there will be a recording available of this. You can just email me at victor@pachunga.net and I'll send it to you. Thanks, everyone. Talk to you guys next week.
Excellent, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.